Hey guys, I hope that you guys are doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Shikha and I welcome you to my channel and to all the different videos I've been doing on INFJ stuff and on other stuff. I hope that you guys enjoy them and hopefully more than that you learn from them and become the best version of yourself as much as possible. In this video I wanted to speak to you guys about the fact that INFJs in general have a really good sense, a really good sense. We're very intuitive in terms of the emotions and feelings of the people around us. So we can be sitting in a room surrounded by people and have an exact idea of how each person in the room is feeling, what their emotional state is, if they're happy, if they're sad, if they're going through a tough time in their life, if they're going through a divorce, or if they're being abused or anything like that. Like, we have a pretty good sense of what's going on with the individual, especially if we trust our intuition, especially if we have a really good sense and connection with our intuition and we're a healthy INFJ, that information about other people is even more accurate and even more poignant. So we can be really aware of what's going on around us and not be the kind of person who is completely clueless. Someone's crying in front of them and they're like, are you feeling all right? So we do have an idea of what's going on around us, around the people around us, not necessarily, but about us. So we're not really good at, we're very good at sensing other people's emotions, but we're not at all good at figuring out what's going on with us. So we can be sitting there and all of a sudden, we get this pang of emotion, whatever it might be. It might be a pang of sadness, or suddenly we start feeling really happy, or suddenly we start feeling really angry. And as an INFJ, I noticed this for myself. I'll have to actually take a moment aside from whatever's going on and actually analyze myself to figure out what's going on with me. Why am I feeling this way? What emotion is this and why am I feeling this way? Now, obviously, I've learned how to deal with my emotions and I know a little bit better how to assess what's going on with me because of all the meditation I do and all of the self-reflection and journaling that I've done over the past couple of years. I've kind of become a little bit more attuned to what's going on within me. So if something comes up, I start feeling pain or start feeling sadness or whatever it might be, I mostly have an idea of what's going on with me. But I do remember times when, my sister's actually really good at this because she'd always be pointing out my emotions to me because I was so bad at figuring out what was going on with me. I'd be, all of a sudden I'd sit down with her and I'd say to her, I'm feeling really tired all of a sudden, or I'm feeling really angry all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on with me. And she'd always be like, well, this just happened, so obviously you're feeling like that. Or she'd be like, well, what about this? Maybe this is affecting you. Or did you have a bad dream? Or are you getting a period soon? Or blah blah, right? And because she's an INTJ, she's very good at thinking, obviously, but she's also very attuned to the people around her and the people that she cares about. So usually she has a good sense of what's going on with me and she's able to kind of point out what exactly I'm feeling, right? In the past, I would be so surprised because she'd point something out and I'd think to myself, oh, right, that's what's going on with me. I had no idea. Oh, that makes sense. That makes absolute sense. But now, thankfully, because I've been also living on my own a lot and I've been able to watch myself a lot more and I'm able to understand myself a little bit more, now I can actually be like, okay, yeah, cool, this is what's going on with me and I can go ahead with it. The reason the reason I really wanted to do this video is a bunch of you actually mentioned recently that you've been having a hard time figuring out what emotion exactly is going on inside of you, especially when, as human beings, as complicated, complex human beings, we have almost always, a lot of different emotions going on at the same time. It's not just that we're just one-dimensional human beings, right? It's not just we're going to feel sadness and that's it. That's the only emotion we're feeling at the moment. You could be feeling sadness and joy and ecstasy and anger and frustration all at the same time because that's the kind of thing it is. It's a human thing to be. We're complex creatures, especially emotion-wise. So that's when it becomes really complicated because it's not that you're just feeling one emotion, you're feeling 1,000 emotions and you have no idea what's going on with you and you feel confused and you'd rather deal with someone else's emotions because it's easier than deal with your own emotion. In one of the videos I did, I don't know which one exactly, I do a lot of videos as you can imagine. One of the videos, Kevin Schutz actually mentioned this in the INFJ community I've started and I thought it was a really good point that I wanted to bring up in a completely separate video. And he said that he's been using this specific technique that I mentioned in a previous video to figure out what his emotional state is. Now, I don't know if this is going to work for everyone because a couple of you guys have mentioned that you don't like music. I'm actually surprised when you say that. Not so much so because, you know, I love music, obviously, but I used to be that kind of person where I would avoid music completely. And I realized when I was avoiding music is because I used to think that music is a waste of time, that I'd rather be doing something important with my time. You know, I'd rather be spending my time doing something productive. You know, I couldn't be wasting my time listening to music. Eventually, though, I realized that music was a really important part of my psyche and my personality and my mental state. It really helped my mental state. For example, I'll give you a quick example. I was walking on the street today and I got a message from someone and they were really, really sad. And so I was listening to the message while I was walking on the street, and all of a sudden I started feeling really sad, obviously, because I empathize with the person and they're important to me and they were going through a hard time, so I started feeling sad. Normally, I just let myself feel the sadness. I'm like, oh my God, this life. I start crying, doing all that stuff. But this time around, I was like, no, I'm really happy. I was happy before I listened to this message. I'm ecstatic to be alive. I'm really happy I'm walking around outside. It's a beautiful day. The breeze was there. It was a nice, sunny day. I was like, I don't want to feel sad. So I switched off that audio message and I turned on some really fast-paced, beautiful house music. Something that I know will pump me up and make me want to dance and make me want to like stamp my feet and do all that stuff, right? And so I put on the music, and as soon as I started the music, boom, like instantaneously switched my mood. It was like I was like a different person all of a sudden, right? So I went from being really, really, really sad, sad, to being extremely happy and just ecstatic to be alive. And it was just because I switched my choice of audio, right? I switched from listening to someone's message to some kind of music that I know appeals to me and my psyche. So in that regard, you know, we can switch and that's what Kevin Schutz is actually mentioning in the video that I did that really appealed to him, that he's been using this technique as well to figure out what kind of music we kind of are geared towards and using that music as a way of figuring out what your emotional state is. Now that's a really important way of, I think it's a really useful and important way of looking at what your emotional state is. Now, of course, if you don't listen to music, it's going to be a little bit hard for you to use that, but I think what we could do as INFJs is figure out what we are attracted to or what are we kind of meandering towards. For example, you're sitting there in a room and all of a sudden you start feeling something. Now you don't know exactly what that feeling is. And so what I would recommend is that you start browsing through some movies or browsing through some music and start figuring out which music or movie or what kind of music do you gravitate towards? Are you moving towards a little bit more melancholic kind of music? Are you moving towards more or gravitating towards more of sad music or something with a lot of anger in it or something with a lot of good vibration in it or something with a lot of joy in it? You know, what kind of music are you gravitating towards and why, right? And so start analyzing that. Now, the two things that are going to happen is either you're going to gravitate towards really happy music because you're feeling sad, which is going to confuse you, or you're gravitating towards sad music because you want to feel sad, because you want to feel that emotion, but you're not able to feel it on your own. I hope that makes sense, right? So I'm just going to go through those two scenarios separately. So the first thing is the example that I just used. You know, I was feeling sad and I knew I was feeling sad. I knew the reason for it. And so I started gravitating towards happy music. I really wanted to feel happy again or ecstatic or just joyful again. So I put on some music that was going to make me feel joyful, right? So that's how I did that one. And that's how you would do as well when you're sitting down and you're feeling all of a sudden you're like, I feel an emotion. Let me see what kind of music I can put on or what kind of movie I can put on in order to feel good about myself or feel sad again or whatever it might be. Now, I do recommend that you don't always run away from your emotion, right? So the second technique is when you are feeling a certain emotion and you kind of gravitate towards a similar kind of music or a similar kind of movie. For example, whenever I feel sad and I want to feel that sadness, I really just love feeling the emotion of sadness. Sometimes it's just nice to feel sad, you know, just sit there and cry your face off and it feels good after. And so when I do want to feel the emotion of sadness, sometimes I'll put on a movie or some kind of music that makes me feel sad, or an anime that I know always makes me cry. One of them that always makes me cry is Orange, and I just put it on, and I just put on the last couple of scenes where, you know, it just makes me want to cry, and I just put it on, I feel sad, and it feels good, and I let go of that emotion, and then I'm able to move on, right? So those are the two things I would actually mention. Now, of course, this is all about practice, right? So I think life is all about practice. Everything that we do in this world is about practice. So all you have to do is just practice the feeling or the act of feeling your emotions or sensing out your emotions. You're sitting there in a room by yourself and all of a sudden you feel an emotion that you know is your own, because sometimes it can be that you're sitting with someone else and feeling their emotion. So you have to separate the two. Sometimes it's not your emotion. You have to be careful about that. And so sometimes you're feeling your own emotion and then you want to figure out what exactly it's about, and you sit down and you reflect on it, or you put on some music and you kind of let yourself feel and sense what is exactly going on in your heart and your mind. I think that's one of the techniques that works for me, and I hope that'll work for you guys as well. Again, if you guys have any questions at all about this technique or about anything else, please message me anytime. Obviously, I'm here to answer your questions. Or if you have any other comments, please comment below, or all my contact information is in the description below. Again, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I shall see you guys the next time around. Bye for now.